Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well and that you're all surviving Mercury retrograde and that the equinox was a good one for you. Happy Mabon and hope that you all celebrated in really beautiful ways. Okay, so I was hoping to get this video out a little bit sooner, but as life would have it. Today is kind of a little bit of a follow-on from last week's or the week before's actually, video. This week I really want to talk to you about emotional toolboxes. It's something that, again, my clients come to me with and they struggle. And I always talk about emotional toolboxes and they're not entirely sure, what they are and how we use them. So in today's little video, I just want to explain to you generally a little bit about it, how we develop our toolboxes and how we get to kind of walk more compassionately by understanding the concept of an emotional toolbox, okay, which is intrinsically linked to our EQ, which is our emotional intelligence. So very often my clients come to me and there are divorces at play, or maintenance battles or some kind of family drama that's going on. And the one thing I'm always very clear on is to try and act with as much integrity and compassion as you can when you are in these situations. I always say to my clients, it's not for the person on the receiving end of it, it's actually for ourselves. It's that age-old story of when, you forgive someone, two souls are set free. It's very much the same principle when you're walking through things with compassion and understanding. But in order to do that, you need to understand the people that you are dealing with and you need to understand your own capabilities emotionally. So in light of that, I teach my clients and my students about emotional toolboxes. Okay. Very often we look at people and we go, really, that was just not the best thing they could have done, and how could they have made that decision, and really what were they thinking when they did that? How could they not see that this was going to be the consequence of what they said or what they did? We have to go back to really base level here, and we need to start looking at the fact that everybody has started from a different place. From the time of birth right through all of our lives, we've all had different experiences. We all have different personalities. So intrinsically, we all react differently to situations around us. And how we react to different situations is going to determine how we learn from those situations. So when you look at somebody and they've made this decision and you don't understand why they've made the decision, you need to take a step back, especially like someone who you've shared a life with, like a wife or a husband, somebody that you're very close to, family members. You need to try and understand where they've come from. The origin is always going to be the easiest way for you to work out why they have behaved a specific way. So, for example, you have a husband who is angry all the time. He walks around furious with life, and you don't want to live in that space anymore. You don't want to live with somebody who has no tolerance for anything and no patience for anything. Take a step back. What was his childhood like? Was he brought up in a home with a lot of aggression? Was there an abusive situation? In those situations, very seldom as children are we able to develop the emotional tools that we require to actually be able to move us forward as we become adults. And to be very, very honest, it's not always easy developing emotional skills later on when we get to adulthood, because it means we have to work on ourselves, and we've got to go and check out our shadow side, and we've got to go and look at this, and what we don't like about ourselves, what we find irritating in others is a trigger for us to look at something in ourselves. So when you start doing that kind of work, it's a little bit more difficult as an adult, to be absolutely fair, to have to do this kind of work. But when you can look at somebody and you can say, okay, this is their past, I know them, this is their past, you'll get to understand why they behave in specific ways. All right. It's important for you, actually, to be able to do this. It's very important for you because it frees you from a situation of being angry all the time, being frustrated because why are they behaving like this? Why are they doing this? If you can understand where somebody is coming from, then you can act accordingly and you can act with integrity and compassion, which is very, very important for your own well-being. And it's something that I really I try and live by constantly. Not an easy one, but it is something that I try and also like try and instill in clients and students, to try and always energetically put your best foot forward in situations when something difficult has been thrown in your path. There are obviously narcissistic character types. We understand that their toolbox is not great. Very often you're going to have things like maternal and paternal core wounds, which are massive woundings from very, very young, from either the mother or father side. And if they are not in a situation where they are supported emotionally and are not able to develop emotionally, those core wounds are going to continue on through their life, and they will perpetuate cycles of abuse, of rejection, of neglect, and very much insecurity. I think it's probably one of the biggest problems with genuinely adults today are actually insecurities. So there's people that are really out there and they seem arrogant and they seem feisty and bolshy. 9 times out of 10, they are the most insecure people that you can actually find. And if you have a closer look at their lives and the way they've been brought up, maybe they were rejected as children. Maybe they were just left to their own devices as children and they didn't get nurturing and the love and attention that they should have received. So, of course, they are then going to be insecure. They're going to feel like they are not worthy of that love and they're not worthy of attention. As an adult, that's going to play out in a number of different ways. For example, if someone is intrinsically unhappy within themselves and they can't create happiness for themselves, they don't have the tools to be able to do that. They are going to they're going to outlash at people in ways like never being able to really settle into something. They're going to always want the next sparkly thing in terms of a relationship or in a job, or even in friendships. So understanding that someone's path has actually in many, many ways determined how they've turned out, if it's somebody obviously that gives you an understanding of how they behave, and you then get to choose how you react to it. Okay, so when you've kind of got that down with whoever you are rivaling with at whatever point in time you're looking at, you need to start looking at yourself as well and look at your toolbox. What does your toolbox contain? And it's really, really important to understand that we are able to increase our toolbox daily. It's something that actually is probably a little bit easier to do than we think it is. So, things like always looking at what triggers you. It is a huge, huge clue to what still needs to be healed within you. So, for example, if you have a friend that is always unreliable, for example, and you can ask something of them and they'll say yes, but then they let you down, or they are never on time. They kind of work to their own system completely. You need to look at the area in your life in where you are being unreliable, because it is triggering something in you that you do not like within yourself. And it becomes very, very important that you then go, okay, so if that's that, then how do I remedy that? What do I need to do? And in learning from your mistakes and learning from these triggers and these teachings, you increase your emotional skill set. It's very, very important as adults to be able to do that, especially if you have children. Children today are not being brought up with the correct emotional tool sets. They are being left to their own devices, literally iPads, iPods, iPhones, PS games, everything, Nintendo Wii's, you name it, they've got it. And it's not developing them emotionally, all right? It's a difficult one, because I guess when we were all younger, we were kind of also left out on devices in a different kind of way. It was eat everything on your plate, and big, boys don't cry, and it was a different kind of vibe. Now it's a case of there's just like distract yourself with technology, and it is creating a generation of people that are not going to be able to interact effectively and efficiently, and are not going to be able to maintain relationships, whether it be friendships or romantic relationships or familial relationships, effectively if something doesn't change within us. And as the generation of adults, we need to set the example about how to actually behave and how to work on ourselves and figure out what it is that we need to change within ourselves so that we can move forward more effectively in life. I feel like at this point it's pertinent to say that whatever work that comes up that needs to be done it is always worth doing. It doesn't matter how difficult it is. It doesn't matter how much it's going to take of you to do. At the end of the day, you need to get to a point in your life where you realize you are absolutely worth the effort. It comes down to self-care, self-love, self-acceptance, and really and truly also to boundaries. Because if you don't do the work that you need to get to your level that you want your emotional toolbox to be at, you are not going to be able to set effective boundaries because you're not going to know yourself well enough to do that kind of stuff, which is something I spoke about in the last video. And boundaries then obviously, protect us. They keep us safe. They keep us free of stress. So, it's really, really becoming more and more important in today's day and age where we are constantly under pressure. We're constantly on the go. We're constantly distracted from actually physical and direct interaction with others. It becomes very important for us to be able to sit back and go, okay, what's going on with me that when I see something, I feel uncomfortable. For my clients that go through these divorces and for someone who's been through a divorce, that really nearly killed me because quite sincerely, I lost the love of my life through this process. Coming out of the other side of it, the easiest way to actually get back to some kind of place where you feel human again and where you feel like you're able to move forward in your life is simply by accepting where you are and understanding that you can always be better than you are now. And in doing that, you are able to progress. So I took all of the lessons that I had learned from my marriage and from my divorce, and I looked at what it had shown me, where I needed to change, where I had fallen short, because at the end of the day, there are always two sides to the story. And nobody is perfect. We all make mistakes. We all get to a point in our lives where we make bad decisions, we maybe behave badly, we maybe say things that we regret saying later on. And I had to look at all of that, everything that was being shown to me through that massive cathartic experience, really. It really became the point of my healing in my life. And it's changed me incredibly, irrevocably. I can never go back to being who I was pre that. But by the same token, I can now look back on kindness with myself to go, oh, I did that because I didn't know any better. I didn't know how to do this. So the reason I'm saying this is that when you are working through whatever it is you need to work through, and you're working through your toolbox, and you are trying to look at how you get to change yourself and be better about yourself, whether it be actually being better about self-care and just taking some time for yourself, and I did mention this last week as well, because it is so important. It is vitally important that we take care of ourselves and we do things that make us feel good and that we do things that feed our souls, because we just become better people for it. Whether it be meditation, reading a book on a rainy day, whether it be going out with your mates and having a drink, whatever it is, we need to feed our souls. We need to be creative and we need to feed our souls. So my advice seriously is that if you are really serious about your healing journey and you really want to get down to where you need to be, or certainly closer, because I'm very honestly, I've been working on myself. It's near exactly almost 3 years, and I've been working on myself every single day consistently. And I know that I've come leaps and bounds, but I know I've got leaps and bounds still to go. So we are constantly healing in layers. And then different stuff will come up. Different people will come into our space and trigger different things for us to learn from and to look at. So, if you're serious about this, then just imagine your toolbox. Look at the things that you are good at. Look at the types of communication you are good at. So, are you really good at listening? Because that's huge. So if someone sits down and says to you, I'm really unhappy, this is not going my way, or this is not going the way I expected it to go, or this is making me feel uncomfortable, are you really listening to what they are saying? Not just hearing it, but actually listening. Are you listening to the words that aren't necessarily always being exactly expressed through that phrase? So it could be something like, when we got together, you were very affectionate with me. You're no longer affectionate with me. And that could be, this is not making me feel loved. It's not making me feel valued. Okay. And you can really only get to identify these things in other people when you've identified them in yourself, which is really the truth. So, I think my suggestion here is if you're going on your healing path and you're getting to a point where you really need to change things, you feel, and it's a good time for it. We've just gone through autumn equinox. We've had a massive shift in energies in the last 3 months. It's been a very, very hectic, energetic start to this year. We've got Chiron, which is the wounded soul. It's that the shadow side of us coming up for healing, the inner child work that needs to be done. Spend time doing that. And when you look at somebody else who maybe responds or reacts in a way that you do not feel is appropriate, please just remember that they have a story. They do have a story, and you do not know necessarily that entire story if they're someone that's new to you. Or if you do know that entire story, then just have some compassion. Understand that we are all different and we all react and respond differently to situations in our lives. And we're not always going to respond the way that you respond or the way that I would respond. So emotional intelligence is something that can be developed constantly. It really is. And I really, really hope that in just listening to this today, that you get some kind of idea, on how to begin and on understanding how other people work. And please do trust me when I say that if you can handle a difficult situation, something that you feel is you shouldn't have to handle well, if you can handle that well and with compassion and with understanding, the person that will really and truly benefit most is going to be you. And it is like forgiveness. You have to do it for yourself. And you also have to forgive yourself first before you can truly forgive another. It's about setting yourself free. So I really, really hope that this has given some little shred of light, and that it's made some kind of difference. Because I know how much these triggers and these things that I've been working with have made a difference to me. So I hope that this helps, and I hope that you have a spectacular weekend ahead, and hopefully I'll touch base with you all next week. Have a beautiful weekend, guys. Bye.